Finding to see a Bugatti Chiron is difficult. Finding photos of its shock absorbers is even more difficult. And seeing how they are repaired, almost impossible. Until now, because in this video, we are going to show you something very few people have ever seen. The suspension dampers of Bugatti Chiron from the inside. Before we go any further, let's take a look at what arrived in our workshop. These Bugatti Chiron dampers were shipped to us all the way from Los Angeles, California, USA, of course, for repair. Recently, it seems that showing Bugattis on YouTube channels has become quite popular. In our case, however, the owner has requested complete privacy and wishes to remain anonymous. So, while we won't be showing the car itself, we can show you something even more interesting. The suspension components that help keep a 1500 horsepower hypercar stable at speeds exceeding 400 kilometers per hour. Before we take a closer look at these dampers, I'd like to share something personal. More than 20 years ago, I was studying automotive engineering at the Technical University of Berlin, Germany. At the time, I was driving a diesel Volkswagen Golf 3. Not exactly a Bugatti, but Golf is a good car. Back then, the Bugatti Veyron was still a dream. In fact, it wasn't even in production yet. What we stood behind the glass was the Veyron study. I often stopped by the Bugatti showroom just to look at it. And yes, I even took photos standing next to it. Back then, I wasn't looking at the classic car. I wasn't looking at the future. Looking back at that picture today, it's hard to believe that one day I would be rebuilding the suspension dampers of the Veyron's successor. Anyway, enough nostalgia. Let's get back to the dampers. These things immediately stands out. These dampers are surprisingly simple. No visible electronics, no wires, no sensors, no adaptive damping system. Just a set of purpose-built motorsport dampers developed by ZF Race Engineering. And before we discuss the engineering behind them, let's find out how they actually perform on the dyno. We start with a series of standard damper tests at different speeds. The graph force versus displacement is terrible. This dyno is very fast. Only EMA dyno can reproduce such speeds and loads. Now we make a sweep test from low frequency to very high frequency. Now we start a road simulation. Only the EMA dyno can simulate such conditions. It's exactly what we need. At first glance, the force curves are extremely asymmetrical, much more asymmetrical than we would expect from a healthy damper on these types, even in channels. On all speeds, the behavior is terrible. We have a free play in this range with no resistance. Now we will test the other damper. And we are lucky because the other damper is in good condition. What does mean? I will explain it. It's very nice that this damper is in perfect condition because we can compare our rebuild with this data. Now we will make several tests to save everything, to record the behavior of this damper, and after that we can compare our rebuild with this. Now that we have the damper apart, this is probably a good moment to answer a question many people are asking. Why would Bugatti use passive dampers on one of the most advanced hypercars ever built? Wouldn't adapting suspension be better? The answer may surprise you. Anyone who has spent time on a racetrack already knows that the majority of serious race cars and motorcycles use passive dampers. In fact, I regularly ride my Aprilia V4 on track days, and one of the first modifications many riders make is removing the adaptive suspension and replacing it with high-end passive components. Why? Because when ultimate performance matters, predictability matters, consistency matters, and driver confidence matters. And that's exactly where a properly engineered passive damper shines. The same philosophy can be found in the world of high-performance cars. Take the Ferrari 488 GTB or 488 Spider for example. Both use adaptive magnetorheological dampers, but the Ferrari 488 Challenge, a race car, use passive ZF racing dampers. The same concept we are looking at here. Or take the legendary Porsche Carrera GT, it also relies on passive ZF dampers. In fact, we have already shown those dampers on our YouTube channel. Even the Ferrari Enzo use passive ZF dampers. These dampers are incredibly lightweight. The bodies are manufactured from exotic lightweight alloys typically found in motorsport. Unlike most modern production dampers, these units are fully rebuildable. Every component can be disassembled, inspected, measured, and rebuilt, exactly like a racing damper. The only difference is that they happen to be fitted on road legal hypercar. These dampers feature a mechanical adjustment knob that allows the damping stiffness to be changed. However, this adjustment is locked and cannot be turned by just anyone. And there is another interesting detail. The springs themselves. These IBAC springs carry part numbers that begin with 5B0, the platform designation used for Bugatti Veyron. The Chiron platform, on the other hand, used the designation 5B3. In other words, Bugatti appears to have carried over the spring design from the Veyron to the Chiron. And honestly, that isn't surprising at all. Both cars have a similar layout, similar weight distribution at what we found inside. Here we can see the main damper body. As expected from a ZF race engineering component, it is exceptionally lightweight. This is the working piston and piston rod assembly. And over here we have the gas reservoir containing the floating separator piston. Between the two sits the damping adjustment valve. Looking at the overall design, one thing becomes immediately obvious. These dampers are engineered extremely well. In fact, there are only a few things that can actually fail. The two most common failure points are quite simple. The first one is the guide and the oil seal. Once the oil seal starts leaking, the damper loses oil. When there is not enough oil inside, the damper can no longer perform. The second common issue is the separator piston, more specifically the O-ring. When that seal, that O-ring wears out, nitrogen begins to migrate into the oil and make it like a foam, and the oil becomes like Coca-Cola. So we will change the guide and we will change the separator, and the guide assembly will be upgraded with one of our own serviceable guide systems. Unlike the original design, our guide has a replaceable oil seal, making future servicing easier. To preserve the collector value of the vehicle, we will also retain the original Bugatti dust cover. I know some of you may already be getting bored by all these technical details, but there is one more thing that catch my attention. Take a look at this marking, setting SP10 number 32. This suggests that each damper was individually calibrated and assigned to its own specific setup. And that tells us something very important. This is not mass production engineering. This is engineering where attention is paid to individual details. We are talking about a vehicle where even the damper settings appear to have been individually specific. Now we repeat the dyno test after the rebuild. At the moment, the dyno measures the static load. It means the resistance of the gas, and after that you start measuring the damping force. We measure from very low shaft speeds up to 1000 millimeters per second in order to check all operating conditions. After this measuring and after this test, we will change the stiffness. We will turn the knob. And of course, sweep test. Now we turn the knob to the softest position and after that to the hardest position. Now look at the graphs. They are perfect, very perfect. So we will compare the graphics, the diagrams, force versus velocity with middle adjustment, minimum stiffness adjustment, and medium. What we see is that the stiffness adjustment doesn't affect the rebound or affect it minimal, but the compression is different. So this adjustment knob change only the force, the damping force at compression. Finally, we will test the spring rate of the spring. (130 Newton per millimeter) is a quite heavy or strong spring. And we see at the beginning the spring rate is 120 and at the end is 140. I don't know if you can see it on the camera, but here in this area the spring is not so wide, and here becomes wider. And with that, the repair is complete. The damper is once again performing exactly as it should. The cavitation is gone, the damping force are stable, and the graphs look exactly the way a Bugatti Chiron damper should look. Today we have shown you how a proper repair of Bugatti Chiron suspension damper is performed. To be honest, projects like this are extremely rare. Most workshops will never see a Bugatti Chiron damper in person. For us, projects like this are not just repairs. They are an opportunity to explore some of the most fascinating suspension engineering ever created. And perhaps that's why some of the world's most exclusive suspension systems eventually find their way to us, to AirTec. From Ferrari and Lamborghini to Porsche, Mercedes-Benz, and now Bugatti. If you have enjoyed this video and would like to see more rare and unusual suspension systems taken apart, analyzed, tested, and prepared, make sure to subscribe to the channel. And if you learned something new today, don't forget to leave a like. Thank you for watching. See you in the next one.